fellow freedom philosophical thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LO3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms known as planet Earth. And today's date is Monday, October 25th, 2021. Yeah, I've just been running around, just scoping out a few things, and I know I haven't done a show in a while. Bear with me, I'm just readjusting here and just get my P's and Q's in tune. And doing all right. You may hear some noise in the background. This is all well and good. But I was just browsing around here on censor.news, and it's interesting. I've been reading some of the articles, like West Virginia governor said he would welcome Maryland counties seeking to join the state. Same thing happened in certain parts of Western Virginia, the state of Virginia. Just all this big government knows best. And it's so funny because when you look at some of these states, they're like the original 13 states to be part of the whole Declaration of Independence. 13 counties became 13 states, the original, and they're doing things half-assed. You know, they forget, they toss common law out of their platform and destroy their heritage and so forth. It's just one of those burdens that's been a cancer in those areas, such as Maryland, for a very long time. And a lot of folks, maybe, and their elected servants in Annapolis have been out of touch when they don't want to believe on the Marylanders' Declaration of Rights. And if they do talk about common law exists. And of course, they want to actually scrap that whole thing unofficially, but believe they are smarter than everybody else. So when government knows best, it turns to manure. It's just that plain and simple. And of course, he had like New York NYPD's large police union sues mayor over COVID-19 vaccine mandate. It's called involuntary servitude, and plus it disenfranchised the fellow New Yorkers, regardless if they're in the governmental delegates or not. It's just a fact. And of course, he got, Dan with a Bill blow me de Blasio. He can't even tie his own shoelaces. He's just trying to sell you something that even dog manure is a lot more valuable, right? It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. And you got what happened was here, Ohio Senate bill passed bill that would ban gun seizures during emergencies, which is good. And of course, in Nigeria, Fulani pastor preaches Christianity in Muslim no-go zones. Nigeria's always been very, I would say, treacherous to folks with different creeds. It's been going on for a very long time. And even based on my past history, I've been to certain services and so forth, and I met a Nigerian family, and a bunch of us sat together, my family and theirs. She talks about the burdens and the dark side, what government is doing to prosecute Christians. Doesn't matter if prosecute Jehovah's Witnesses, it doesn't matter. And that's during the 70s, but no one really cared about it, because remember, everyone talked about South Africa, black-white thing. You know how that is. Anything that's interracial, they want to climax to the core. And Pope Francis appoints population control activist Jeffrey Sachs to Pontifical Academy of Social Science. It tells you how much of a hypocrite he is. He is nothing more than a status hack. That's Pope Francis for you. And of course, United Airline pilots COVID revolt files medical freedom lawsuit in 2,000 fellow workers. LifeSite News. And here's another one here about fired football coach plans lawsuit against university that denied him religious exemption from COVID jab. Yep, treat you like a number rather than a human being. It's happening everywhere, folks. You got unions are like questioning and battling, and you got the leaders from other unions that are trying to belly up so it's for your own good. And one thing, when someone asks me if I've been fully vaccinated, I always use my right of privacy to give me an attitude. Goes to, how was your colon examination? You didn't like what I said, but hey, if you're going to dish it out, you better learn to receive. So anyone that asks you about that and you don't have to answer, or they want to condemn you, proves one thing: they're anti-Roe v. Wade. They're against a person's right of privacy, liberty for me, but none for thee. And of course, you got to see now Biden stumbles, blunders throughout speech about infrastructure, which he doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about. He's in the total twilight zone. Of course, I still say it's the first white privileged president in U.S. history. And I'm not a big Trump worshiper, but the whole thing is, folks, he became the greatest scapegoat ever in that same category. Think about it, okay? Question these things, folks. And you still got these clowns that still want to watch the garbage media, get brainwashed, be conditioned like Pavlov's dogs, and doing everything half-assed backwards rather than taking the initiative of doing their own research, which is not that hard now thanks to technology. Why is that? People want to do things the lazy-ass way. Not all, but a great amount. With that mindset, you give people like them a bar of Palmolive soap. It's not that hard. Go, here you go, dishpan hands. That's how you pay your dues. Call them Palmolive. Well, what else? Nothing new under the sun, correct? Well, I'm going to be talking on a couple of things here. Of course, Facebook swings wildly after revenue miss. Poor guy's butt announces $50 billion buyback. Oh my goodness. So, Facebook's involved. Imagine having a date with Alan Zuckerberg. Yes, I do love you. I do find you very attractive. Can we make love tonight? I just do a good handshake instead. He's like a monotone NPR guy. That's what Zuckerberg is. Well, without further ado, I'm going to be talking on a couple of topics here. Go to Censor.news. It's very good. Mike Adams did a great job. Remember, he got banned from those tech giants. Did them a favor. And hey, they need us more, we need them, okay? Well, this is what's going on right now. It's from Bob Livingston's alerts. And this one here, I forgot what episode it is. Good grief. I apologize. I've been tired. And I haven't been keeping tabs on what I've been doing. I'm just doing okay. Just a little bit, a little headache, but I'm getting there. So bear with me. Well, this one here is entitled "Biden's Imperial Presidency is Rising Up to Crush Us Under Its Boot." This is what Mr. Livingston has to say. Historian Arthur Schlesinger Jr. wrote "Imperial Presidency" in 1973 to call attention President Richard Nixon's vast abuses of executive authority to circumvent constitutional limitation of the office. Democrats have since described a number of Republican presidents, including Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush, as being imperial presidents. But as Joe Biden continues to push the limits of presidential power over COVID mandates, gun grabs, bank account reporting, and eviction moratoriums, those who have traditionally rallied against the onset of presidential imperialism are noticeably silent. Remember that, folks. I heard this glam boy punk band talk about an anti-Donald Trump song. I just laughed. I was like, who's their Lord and Savior? Michael Moore? Glamour punks. I'm sorry. I just heard that. I'm not a fan. I just got to laugh. But you don't want to hear about Biden, right? Come on. Well, we'll continue on here. Having just shackles of monarchy, the founding fathers were loath to establish a government with an all-powerful chief executive. To prevent it, they created a government divided into three equal branches. Their idea was that each branch would check the other in order to limit the government's growth. In 2004, the reissue of Imperial Presidency, Schlesinger added more recent abuses of presidential power, including the vast expansion of power laid out in the Patriot Act and Bush's unconstitutional wars. Schlesinger died in 2007 during the onset of the Obama administration, and now Obama 2.0. But even though Schlesinger was a lifelong Democrat, most historians would probably argue that the Biden presidency merely fits into his definition of the imperial president as Obama did before him. But the anti-federalist Cato thought to be New York Governor George Clinton warned in Letter 5 to the citizens of New York that the compact under consideration did not provide strong enough checks and balances. He wrote, before the existence of express political compacts, it was reasonably implied that the magistrate should govern within wisdom and justice, but mere implication was too feasible to restrain the unbridled ambition of a man or afford security against negligence, cruelty, or any other defect of mind. It is alleged that the opinions and manners of the people of America are capable to resist and prevent an extension of prerogative or impression, but you must collect that opinion and manners are mutable. They may not always be permanent obstruction against the encroachments of government, that the progress of a commercial society begets luxury, the parent of inequality, the foe to virtue, and the enemy to restraint, and that ambition and voluptuousness, aided by flattery, will teach magistrates where limits are not explicitly fixed to have separate and distinct interests from the people. Besides, it will not be denied that government assimilates the manners and opinions of the community to it. Therefore, a great presumption that rulers will govern well is not a sufficient security. You are then under a sacred obligation to provide for the safety of your posterity, and would you now basely desert their interests, when by the small share of prudence you may transmit to them a beautiful political patrimony that will prevent the necessity of their traveling through seas of blood to obtain that which your wisdom might have secured. It is a duty you owe likewise to your own reputation, for you have a great name to lose. You are characterized as cautious, prudent, and jealous in politics, whence it is therefore that you are about to precipitate yourselves into a sea of uncertainty, and they adopt a system so vague and which has discarded so many of your valuable rights. It is because you don't believe that an American can be a tyrant. It is, if this be the case, you can rest on a weak basis. Americans are like other men in similar situations when the manners and opinions of the community are changed by the causes I mentioned before, and your political compact inexplicit. Your posterity will find that great power connected with ambition, luxury, and flattery will as rarely produce a Caesar, Caligula, Nero, or Domitian in America as the same causes did in the Roman Empire. Well, he's absolutely correct on that. This is why when the framers that create the Declaration of Independence, even though it was authored by Thomas Jefferson, to claim that Thomas Paine was involved in that. The fact is this: when he wrote in there about if the government becomes usurped, it's the people's obligations to overthrow or start a new form of government. I'm saying in the paraphrase, and this is what. And the fact is this: the reason why he put that in there was signed by 54 over 50 plus men, 57, I believe, or 55. I gotta look it up again. Never trust the government. Okay? Never trust them. Period. And it's part of the American heritage, our culture, and it has to stick. So all those centralized hacks, they can stick it. I'm sorry to say that. Doesn't matter if you're a communist and a socialist and all that. I'm not here condemning people, but that ideology is invalid. When government knows best, it turns to manure. Look what's going on in France right now. That's a very good example. In Oceania, Australia, New Zealand. This is worldwide what's going on. So never trust the government, okay? So I'm going to continue on here. Sadly, it turns out he was correct. Congress has abdicated its responsibility. The federal judiciary has become an oligarchy Thomas Jefferson warned about, and the result is we now have an imperial presidency. Here's one good example. Lincoln's legacy, the Republican, right? When they revived the Republican Party, he was a defected Whig, like many of them were. It says here, the imperial presidency has its roots in 1861, and Abraham Lincoln, who had no regard for the Constitution and the rule of law. The southern states had every right to secede under the Constitution. You know why? Voluntary contract. Okay? Get that clear, folks. Voluntary contract. In his inaugural address, President Thomas Jefferson said, if there be any among us who wish to dissolve this union or to change this Republican reform, let them stand undisturbed as monuments of the safety with which error of opinion may be tolerated, where reason is left free to combat it. As Judge Andrew P. Napolitano states in his book, Constitutional Exile, in a later speech, Jefferson, discussing the possibility of states seceding, said, God bless them both and keep them in the Union if it be for their good, but separate them if it be better. Lincoln's act of sending troops to Virginia triggered the armed conflict that became the Civil War, Napolitano said. Many people call it the War on Northern Aggression. Or I call it the United States Confederate States War, okay? Because they started their own form of government. Read their Constitution of the Confederate States of America. Look it up online, folks. Boom, plain and simple, right? So Napolitano writes, he did so under the premise that war was necessary to preserve the Union. But the truth that is that Lincoln had several other options to exhaust before restoring the warfare, and that's only after we observed the southern states had the right to secede from the Union if they wished to do so. I recommend folks to check out the book The Real Lincoln by Thomas J. DiLorenzo and Lincoln Unmasked. Ooh, talk about centralization. Oh yeah. Checks and balances is a question. 3 branches envisioned by the founders as set of checks against one another became partners in crime. They consolidated their power over those they've governed and set about entrenching themselves and enriching themselves, their political parties, and their cronies. Following the events of 9/11, Congress granted President George W. Bush sweeping powers to make war on terrorists and imprison Americans without trial. Like Lincoln, Bush suspended habeas corpus, Biden wrote and Congress passed the liberty-crushing USA Patriot Act that gives law enforcement agencies broad powers to eavesdrop, search, and surveil Americans. Yes, I can see all you Biden supporters out there, especially under my demographics. You chose poorly. You suck at what you do. You should all burn your voter's registration cards because you failed civics. Prove me wrong if you dare, and I don't care what you think. Just prove it to me that I don't know what I'm talking about. Can't accept it? You're going to argue with me behind a rhetoric? Have a pee now microphone in your mouth handy, okay? Plain and simple. All right, I'll continue on here. Sadly, not only Congress does not care, it is working post-haste to make it easier for the president to avoid Congress altogether. Recall that years ago, the senator supposedly fighting the Democrats on the debt ceiling, Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky himself, floated the harebrained notion to give the president the authority to raise the debt ceiling on his own. Another illiterate. Yay! Another dummy, right? So it's not enough that the president just ignores Congress. Congress decided it wanted to give the president carte blanche to ignore it even further. Yes, free money, free loaders, Palmolive his hacks. Give him a bar of Palmolive soap. That's some respect only give him, right? Meanwhile, Biden morphs into a third world style dictator every day, recognizing that the federal government was abdicating its responsibility to control the border. The illegal immigrants need COVID jabs as they are allowed to flood into our country, and guarantee every state a Republican form of government. States have passed sovereignty laws on issues from medical marijuana to funding abortions to interstate ammunition and gun sales. Oops, there's the fallout from the first tyrant president's action. To stealing to freedom-stealing COVID laws, all of these have faced cost or funding, lawsuits, and intimidation at the hands of the mafia-style federal government. Ignore the rule of law. Biden's cronies lie with impunity, disregard the Constitution, ignore the laws he doesn't agree with, do what he wishes, and is trying to further centralize the government that was created to be decidedly decentralized. And Congress, save for a few lone voices, they stand by and pledge fealty to the Imperial Presidency. Yes, I give you a bunch of names, but I'll be here for like 3, 4, 5 hours. All right, I'm not gonna go there, but I know many of them out there that they say, "Okay, boss, we'll support you 100%, even if it's unconstitutional." Both parties are great. Factions are very good at that. So the truth of the matter is, folks, this is why I'm very pro 10th Amendment, nullification, anti-commandeering doctrine. Biden, the world does not revolve around one hack, globalist buttboy, white privilege 46, etc. It is irrelevant. And you got individuals in Congress, right in the House, Senate, Democrat, Republican, they're like, bend over and smile, or lick the boots of tyranny, give this man a red carpet treatment. That's how they want you to believe. That's like the Roman Empire, folks. Let them screw around long they got their luxuries, their little playthings, and so forth. But if they blow the whistle, they got dirt on them, etc. This is why, like I said before, our custom and heritage is never trust the government. And that's a fact. Well, you know what? It's one thing I always tell people. If we have to reset everything, so be it. We gotta still keep our natural rights intact. Liberty, which is the combination of freedom and morality. None of this draconianism in these state-funded schools, government schools, having the feds trying to tell the parents in these counties, if you harass them or call them out, you're considered a domestic terrorist. All these lame, lazy people, because they got all this money, this so-called power, they didn't want to do their job anyway. They didn't want to get their hands to have someone else do it for them. All they are just they all like throw the bones and let the dogs fetch them. Okay, that's all they want us to do. Well, you know what? It's all on its face. They're all running scared. Of course, they are bare naked. They're not wearing any clothes. A lot of folks are seeing right through them. Even the ones, too, I will say, who voted for Joe Biden are like seeing the bigger picture. And if they admit they made a mistake, that's understandable. I'll still be critical, but it's understandable. I know there's a lot of good folks I know that they take the red pill after they supported Obama. They found out how much of a status quo hack he is. Oh, of course. Well, you know what? At least they admit that. And that's fine, too. But one of the areas we always got to look at, folks, we can all have due diligence of keeping these parasites on their toes, rather if they're federal, state, or local. You got so many vampires out there, believe they're smarter than everybody else, especially they want to flaunt their law degree status, which is nothing more than toilet paper as far as I'm concerned. I love to wipe my rear ends on these things. So, stay vigilant and support your states the best you can. Keep them on their toes. Stick to their principles. All right? So, we're going to do one more here. And this one here came from the NewAmerican.com. It says here, DeSantis invites police quitting being fired over vax mandates to relocate to Florida. Offers bonuses. Well, this is what Veronica Kirilenko has to say. While the governments of New York, Seattle, Chicago, and other liberal cities try to force the police department to take the COVID vaccine, will get booted. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis invites the officers to refuse to get the shot to the Sunshine State, where they will be treated well. In an interview with Fox News on Sunday, DeSantis said the state is actively working to recruit officers from outside of Florida to fill the needs in police and sheriff's departments, and he would welcome law enforcement personnel who risk losing their jobs for defying local vax mandates. DeSantis said in the next legislative session, I'm going to hopefully sign legislation that gives $5,000 bonuses to any out-of-state law enforcement that relocates in Florida. So NYPD, Minneapolis, Seattle, if you're not being treated well, we will treat you better here. You can fill important needs for us, and we will compensate you as a result. There's some questions on that, politically, but I'll continue on here. The governor slammed President Biden's vaccine mandates as unconstitutional and argued that such policies will wreak havoc on the economy. If the vaccine mandate will wreak havoc in the economy, because even if a small percentage of these folks end up losing their jobs or voluntarily walking away, you're going to have a huge disruption in medical, in logistics, and law enforcement, DeSantis stressed. The governor later noted that most first responders had previously contracted the virus and are recovered, so they have strong protection. Yet, the large liberal cities pretend that the natural immunity does not exist. DeSantis conveyed the message that taking a COVID shot is a personal decision, and people who we hail as heroes should not be kicked out of their jobs for refusing it. Last week, DeSantis announced that he was calling a special session of the state legislature in an effort to protect people's personal choices in taking COVID vaccines without being threatened with the loss of employment. Your right to earn a living should not be contingent upon COVID shots, the governor said. And I agree with them on that. We got basic rights in Florida. We have natural rights. Okay, and remember one thing, folks, Florida is a common law state. I think it's, you gotta look at Chapter 2, Florida Statutes Chapter 2 on that. And it's self-explanatory, all right? According to a statement from the governor's office, provided to the Hill, the bonuses will be available to any law enforcement officials who wish to relocate to Florida regardless of their vaccination status. None of them would be asked to verify vaccination status as a condition of hiring or employment. And it's a fact. That's considered, especially in the public, Article 1, Section 23 of the Florida Constitution. Self-explanatory. The statement notes, in other states, police officers who are vaccinated are also considering leaving the force due to other challenges, such as the anti-police rhetoric and political threats of defunding law enforcement in certain parts of the country. These tend to be the same areas terminating the first responders over vaccine mandates. Speaking at the economic event in North Venice on Monday, DeSantis said, "We are 100% excited about saying anyone that's being mistreated, if the morale is low, if you can't take that environment, and we have openings here, you're going to get an environment where people are going to support you. Yeah, all I got to say, if you do it honorably, if you're corrupt, we will call that person out. Plain and simple. Don't be, you can't just kiss the floor they walk on, folks. Let them earn their merits, right?" In August, DeSantis wrote out a proposal to boot recruitment of new law enforcement officers, which included a $5,000 signing bonus to officers joining the profession, academy scholarship program, and relocation support for officers moving to the state. The stance of the Florida governor in regard to vaccine mandates came days after President Joe Biden unequivocally voiced his support of the idea of firing law enforcement and emergency personnel for non-compliance with the vaccine mandates during the CNN town hall this past Thursday, which we all know it was fake. It was at a studio, and all the questions were pre-arranged. Okay, this is how pathetic they believe you guys out there are that dumb, and I know many of you out there aren't. Okay, asked by the host of police officers, emergency responders should mandate to get the vaccine, and if not, should they just stay home or be let go? Biden says yes and yes. See right there, more federal intervention. RICO Act's #1 fan, the great centralizer, Joseph Biden, white privilege 46. The vaccine mandates that put people in position of quitting their jobs or being fired are already putting public safety in jeopardy. Last week, 1,900 Washington State employees quit their jobs or were fired for not abiding by Governor Jay Inslee's COVID vaccine mandate. Let me tell you this, folks. If you live in the state of Washington, you need to recall this piece of garbage under Article 1, Section 33 of your state constitution, and anyone in the local government and state legislation, call these bastards out, these vampires. You have the right to toss their ass out, and put them on an unemployment line, or give them an application to be a Walmart greeter. All right. Okay. Per the Washington Post in Virginia, less than half of all state police troopers and half correction officers are inoculated against COVID. In Las Vegas, Atlanta, and Columbus, only a third of police officers have gotten the shots. In the nation's capital, 42% of police officers are unvaxxed. In Chicago, more than one-third of the city's nearly 1,300 members police force are defying the city mandates to attest to their vaccination status. On Monday, Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 7, President John Cantizera urged city council members to repeal the vaccine mandate. You know what? They should do the shot. They should do those COVID shots right at the meeting live stream. Okay, I will let them know. You first. In Massachusetts, the state's police is estimated at least 150 state police officers will resign over Governor Charlie Barker's vaccine mandate. New York's largest police union, the Police Benevolent Association, filed a lawsuit Monday to overturn Mayor Bill de Blasio's vax mandate, which goes into effect for police officers and all other city workers at the end of this week. What are the other city workers what their unions are saying about this? Okay, stop being a bunch of cowards, okay? De Blasio's are nothing more than a manure bag. New law enforcement officers' memorial fund called on officers to seriously consider receiving the vaccine to protect themselves and others from becoming seriously ill, but underlined that the police officers should maintain freedom to make the educated decision for themselves. According to an MSN report, police departments nationwide have been experiencing staffing shortages since before the vaccine mandates took place. The National Police Foundation found that 86% of law enforcement agencies nationwide reported a staffing shortage in 2020. Since September, at least 10 lawsuits have been filed in state and federal courts against the mandates. And you know what? I applaud these people that's standing up against this tyrannical Nuremberg Code violation scheme. These products have never ever been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Period. And you got all these clowns and even folks in certain unions saying you gotta take the shots to get the job. They are not union officers and not more than tyrannical syndicates. And I say that in good faith. They're trying to destroy people's livelihood. They're violating your 9th Amendment rights on a federal level, and of course the 14th. And you have the right of privacy. Like I said before, I'm not a fan of abortion, but you know what? Roe v. Wade. So throw that at them. You know how many of them will have a sissy fit and be on Banshee and Heat if you call them out on that? Oh, so you're proud anti-Roe v. Wade? They will go live it because they can't comprehend anything. Because they think narrowly, not broadly. So those are the questions. Like I said, one of the questions I have to say, is it legit about the signing bonus? However, I like what DeSantis when I say, hey, you're not a number, you're a human being. And I tell all other cops to come out here, don't bring your garbage with you. Leave it out there, all right? And one thing is really disturbing because according to openveers.com, as of October 15th, there are like 17,518 deaths related to the COVID shots. And like almost 800,000 cases in reference to in reference to the shocks as well. Bell palsy, miscarriages, hospitalizations, doctor visits. It is insane. And right now, it says it right here, openviewsrighthere.com. And I'm like looking right through it. Yeah, it's just too much, folks. Too much. It's all about the CDC disclaimer. And I'm just, one of those areas, it just dawns on me. Like it says here, conservatively, there's right now 1,648,911 reports of vaccine adverse events in VAERS. Okay, and of course 17,128 COVID vaccine reported deaths, total of 26,182 total reported deaths. So that's being conservative numbers. And of course here, 83,412 total COVID vaccine reported hospitalizations. That's 161,568 total reported hospitalizations. So this is from, so a lot of reports here. 818,042 COVID vaccine adverse events reports. That's from October 15th of this year. Share that to the folks that have been vaccinated. Okay? Share that with them. They're not going to tell you the big garbage news, CNN and MSNBC, CNBC, all this crap. That's all it is. All it is just garbage. I'm not going to tell you that. I do. And many like-minded people do the same thing. You share this stuff with them, folks. And even those idiots in government, they don't want you to know about it. And they're really pushing them for this damn shot for a very good period of time. Why is that? Kio bono, who benefits? Well, like I said before, I like what's going on in Florida. A lot of work's out here. I tell people, take it. And even myself, hey, we all got different skill sets and so forth. There's times you want to do something different, you got that opportunity. So there's no excuses. Jobs are out there. Take advantage of it, folks. Invest in things wisely. We all know a lot of crap is happening, including about the people's eyes on Mount Palma, the Canary Islands, that can affect the United States as well, because it had something like that had happened in 1814. You got to look at that angle and remember what happened in Pompeii, 79 CE. Well, that's all I got to say right now. What's your intake? You know what to do. I thank everyone for listening, but feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, and send us an issue account, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to the Quorum. Oh, sorry about that. Got the hiccups. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnotes of these two articles on my speaker page. If you want to contact me, you can go to lookyourluck03@protonmail.com. If you want to send donations, you can hit me at paypal.me or cash.at/lookyourluck3. If you want to support Bob Livingston's letter or the New American, subscribe, donate. That would be great, because hey, we're all here to share good information without the distractions, all right? So once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Till next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. May your guardian spirits be with you.